So when I launch this application, and in this list box, there are two values which are already selected, England and New Zealand. Now from this, list box, I'm selecting India. From this list box, I'm selecting India. Now what will happen here? Okay, so now I'm selecting India. The England and New Zealand were already selected, and again I'm selecting India. Now my question is, will it keep the existing options selected, remain selected, and select India? Or is it like it will select India and unselect the remaining? Do you understand my question? So I'm trying to select. Okay. So I'm trying to select India from the list box, multi-selection list box. But before that, England and New Zealand were selected. Now I'm trying to select India. Now, when I select India, what will happen? So it will keep England and New Zealand remain selected and select the India, or select the India and unselect the existing ones. So what will happen? What do you think? Do you understand my question here? What will happen? No response from anyone? Most of the people answered as, all three will be selected. Let's see whether you are, correct or not. So let me run that. Yeah, now, okay, so India is there. India has been selected. If you see, India has been selected. England and New Zealand will remain selected. Right? So they remain selected. So that means that, okay, whenever you select a new value from the multi-selection list box, and whenever you try to select a new value from multi-selection list box, and if any of the value which was already selected, it will keep that value remain selected, and it will extend the selection. So select, when you select class, it will extend the selection. So you, right? So what happens is, this select class, whenever you use a select by visible text, select by value, select by index, then it will extend the selection. It will keep the existing values remain selected, and then it will select the new values. In case if whatever the value that you are trying to select, if the value was already selected, then it keeps remain selected. Is that clear on that? Is it clear what I've told? So it will extend the selection. Extend selection means it will keep the existing values remain selected and selects the new value. Remember, this is applicable only when it is multi-selection list box. If it is single selection list box, then obviously only one value can be selected at a time. If you select India, whatever the value which was already selected, it will unselect. If it is single selection list box. When it is multi-selection list box, then it will extend the selection. If this value, whatever you are trying to select, which is already selected, then it will remain selected. Because yesterday somebody answered it will unselect. Today also again they answered unselect, though I have explained yesterday. Yeah, so it's clear, right? Okay. So now I have a small requirement here. So my requirement is now from this list box, whatever I have, I want to select India. Okay, so I have to, in my flow, I want to keep only India as a selected value. I mean, I'm selecting India, but the values which were selected already should not be selected. Got what I'm saying? So my requirement is, if there are any values already selected, then those values have to be unselected, and whatever the selection I make now, currently, that means India. Now it has to keep only India selected and remaining values should not be selected. So what should I do? What should I do for that? What I have to do is now, okay, so first, before I select India, I have to ask Selenium, say that, okay, so unselect the existing values. Whatever the values which were already selected, you unselect them. And then you select the new value. Right. Then how do you unselect the existing value? How do you unselect the existing values? Deselection you say. Then you say list dot. What's the method here? Deselect all. List dot deselect all. So what happens when you use deselect all? Then I'll just keep some sleep in between so that you can observe what happens when you use deselect all. So what deselect all does? When you use deselect all, whatever the values which are already selected in that list box, multi-selection list box, it will unselect all the existing selected values. It will unselect all the existing values, whatever have been selected. Right? Okay, so let me run this. Now, you see England and New Zealand were selected. You see what happened? You saw that England and New Zealand were unselected, right? So those were deselected. So when you use deselect all, whatever the values which are already selected will be deselected. So before you make a new selection, deselect all the existing selected values. So how do you do that? Then by using deselect all. So how do you unselect all the existing values? By using method called deselect all. So do you understand this? Do you guys understand? Okay. Then again, now, okay, I don't want to deselect all the values. I don't want to deselect all the values. I want to unselect only one particular value. I want to unselect or deselect only one particular value. So how do you deselect one particular value? So when you use deselect all, it will deselect or unselect all the values. Then how do you deselect one particular value? Then you say list dot deselect. Then you have methods like, okay, deselect by index, deselect by value, deselect by visible text. Just opposite to select by value, select by visible text, or select by index, which we have seen yesterday. Now, when you use deselect by visible text, then I'll see England. England here. So I have given England deselect by visible text. Then let's see what happens here. Okay, you can see England unselected, right? And after that, I have selected India. So India and New Zealand selected. You see that England is deselected or unselected, right? Okay, so deselect by what? Visible text. So deselect by visible text deselects the particular value, given value. But in case, like let's say for example, yeah, let me do this. In case you say now by default, what are the values selected? England and New Zealand, right? By default. Now I will give Australia. Yeah. Is Australia selected by default in the list box? Is Australia selected by default? No, right? Okay, so Australia is not selected by default. Now I'm trying to, or I'm asking Selenium to deselect the value, which is Australia, where the value is already deselected, which is not selected. What will happen now? I'm trying to deselect a value which is not selected at all. What will happen? Will it throw any exception, or it will keep remain unselected, or will it select? So what will happen? What do you think of it? Let's see now. What do you think of it? Now you see Australia is already not selected. Then let's see if the execution has been completed. Yeah, execution has been completed here. And what happened? You see that there is no exception. And you see Australia is not selected. right? Australia is not selected. What does it mean? When you try to deselect a value which is not selected, it will remain keep deselected. So if you want to deselect a particular value by visible text, you can give deselect by visible text. If you want to unselect all the values, then you can directly say deselect all. And in case if no value selected, when you use deselect all, it will keep as it is. When you use deselect by visible text, and if you give certain element, if that element is there, then if that element was not selected, it will remain unselected. If the element is not there at all, that particular option, it will throw an exception like no such element exception. So that we have seen yesterday. Same as like an select by visible text. Similarly, deselect by visible text, and we have other method called list.deselect by index. I'll give as a 4. You know what is it mean? You know what does it mean? So what I'm trying to do here? What I'm trying to do? Fifth value. So I'm trying to deselect the or unselect the fifth value because I'm using index number 4. So okay. So I'm trying to unselect the fifth value where the fifth value was already deselected. So what will happen? It will keep the fifth value, remain unselected. Let's see, like what's the fifth value here? Afghanistan, Australia, Bangladesh, England, India is the fifth value. So it will deselect the fifth value. And I will give 3 here. So fourth value, nothing but the England. Let me run this. So deselect by index means it will try to unselect the value based on its position. Now I have given 3 nothing but the fourth value. Fourth value is nothing but England. You say that England is unselect. Did you get? Do you guys understand what I've told? Similarly, you have other method that you have other method that's called deselect by value. List dot deselect by value. So this is yesterday I told, like, select by value. Select by value means it will select the element based on the value attribute. In case if for the list boxes, then for the options, sorry. Yeah, for the options, if you have value attribute, like, okay, so if you have value attribute, like, if you want to select or deselect based on the value attribute, then you can use deselect by value. This can be used only in case if value attribute is available. Now what you can do is deselect by value of New Zealand. So unselect the option, deselect the option which has got value attribute value as NZ. In case if no option is there with the given value, it will throw an exception. If it is there, then it will unselect it. If it is already unselected, it will keep remain unselected. You see that New Zealand is unselected. Right? So this is how we can unselect the values from the list box by using a select class. By using select class. Right? So is that clear how to unselect the values by using a select class? Yesterday we have seen how to select the values. Now we have got, we have discussed about how to unselect the values. It's clear, right? All the methods. So deselect all, deselect by visible text, deselect by index, and deselect by value. What about others? So yeah, now apart from selection and deselection, and select class also provides various other methods. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to understand. Sorry. I want to understand which value is currently selected. I want to understand which value is currently selected. Okay. So I have to take that list box. So now you say list dot get first selected option. There is a method called get first selected option. And get first selected option will give the web element. It will return the option as a web element. Now, opt.getText. So what get first selected option does is, if there are any values selected in that list box, and it will bring the first selected value out of all, then it will store it in the web element. And then by using get text, we can get the text of the element which has been selected, the first selected option. Let me run it and see what happens here. And there are two values selected, England and New Zealand. Then you see which has been right. So England has been printed. What is England here? So England is nothing but the first selected option. And in case if no options are selected, no. So I remove that selected attribute for both the options. You see, no option has been selected, right? No option has been selected now. Now let's see what get first selected option returns. Now, what happened here? You got no such element exception. No options are selected. When you say get first selected option, in case if no options are selected, then what happens? You will get no such element exception. So if at least one option has to be selected if you want to use this method. In case if no option selected, then you will get the exception. Do you understand that? So how do you check which option has been currently selected? And if you want to avoid that exception, you can use exception handling. So see, I'll write the code here. I'll say try and catch no such element exception. Then I'll say system and no option is selected. Do you understand this code what I have written? So in case if any option selected, it will return that particular option as a web element, and then we can print the text of it. So it will give you the first selected option. If it is only one option selected, it will give that. If no option selected, then we were getting no such element exception. So if you get no such element exception, then that means no option selected, and that's what it prints. So how do you check which option has been currently selected? Right. So this is to get, a single option, whatever has been selected from the multi-selection list box or single selection list box. We can use that. Or if you want to see what and all options have been currently selected. If you want to see what and all the options have been currently selected, then what do you do? Okay, I'll add a selected attribute for multiple. Then you can go with. Okay. So now here, by default, how many values are selected? How many values are selected by default? 3 values have been selected, right? So by default, now I want to get all of them, whatever have been selected. Right? So I want to get all of them, how many values have been selected. Then what do? You say list dot get all selected options. Get all selected options. This will return list of web element, because it will give multiple options based on whatever have been selected. It will give a list web element. Get all selected options will give all the options which are selected. Then all selected options. Then you can just say opt.getText. Let's see what happens here. So Australia, India, New Zealand, right? Can you see? All the selected options have been printed. Then how do you understand what and all the options have been selected? Then by using the method called get all selected options. Okay, so how do you understand which value selected? How do you understand what and all values have been selected? Okay, and at the same time, I want to understand what and all values are there, how many values are there in that list box, what and all values are there in the list box. Then in such case, what you do? You say get options. There is a method called get options. So what get options does is it will give collection of all the options in that list box, whatever the list box that we are working on, then it will give all the options. You see, get options is a method. Then if you want to understand how many are there, then you can say all options dot size. Then if you want to see what and all options available, then you can loop through each and every option. Then you can print option text. So get options will give okay. So let's see what has been printed. What has been printed here? You see all the options have been printed, right? All the options have been printed. So what does it mean? Get options will return collection of all the options whatever are available, selected and unselected, all the options whatever are available. Is it clear? So get options, get first selected option, get all the options which are selected. Okay. And this is how we can use select class. This is what the select class in the Selenium mostly work with the, to mostly work with the list boxes. To work with the list box, then we use the select class like this. And it's very easy to use, but at the same time, in the reality, we may not prefer to use this. So though the select class help us to work with the list boxes easily to select or unselect the values, we may not prefer to use a select class. The reason because there are certain limitations with the select class. We have got some limitations. Let's see one of the limitation, the main limitation. Okay. So let me open another application. That application contains a list box. Okay, and then I have already written the script to navigate to that particular page. So I will just run another script which will open that particular page. Then, and I will show you the limitation of the select class. So why we don't use. So this is another application. And I have written some code just for navigation purpose, because if I write the code in the class itself, it will take time. So I just wrote offline. Okay, is there? Okay, now, yeah, fine. Look at this. You see this drop down, right? Do you see this drop downs here, list boxes? Look at one of the list box. This is the list box, right? This is the list box. Right? Okay. So now, somebody should be on mute, please. Okay. So you see this list box, right? Now that list box, okay, let's see how it has been designed. How this list box has been designed. Let me inspect that. Inspect this. Look at how this list box has been defined. In the page that what we were discussing earlier about the select class, the list box was defined by using which tag? By which tag it's been defined in the previous HTML page? What was the tag we have used to define the list box? Select tag, right? So normally we use the select tag to define the list box, but not in all the applications. In some of the applications, maybe in React, Node, applications and Node.js applications, React applications, all those, then they may not use select tag to define the list box. Some of the list boxes might be defined by using div, or might be defined by using ULLI, like maybe with the different tags. Okay, so now you see I have written the locator already for the list box. Okay, so to locate the list box, I already wrote the XPath. Then you see it's identifying that list box, right? Now in this list box, I'll try to select the value, any of the value, by using what? So by using select class. Now this is the customized list box, and they have not used select tag. So that means it's a list box defined without using select tag. Defined without using select. Then let me try to work with that list box by using select class. Now list dot select by index of 1. What is meant by that? I'm trying to select the second value from the list box. Do you understand this code? I'm trying to select the second value from that list box by using select class. Do you understand this code, right? Whatever I have written now. I mean, forget about the other code I already wrote just for navigation to navigate to till that particular page. So I'm just trying to select the second value from the list box. As I told, I already wrote the XPath and all just to save the time. And I have captured that particular list box and storing it in the element. I'm passing that element to the select class object. Then I'm trying to select the second value. So do you guys understand what I have written? Okay. So now let me run it. So navigate to the quotes and invoices and then see whether it will select or not. And you see it's not selected, right? So it's not selecting. Then let's see what happens here. You see there is an exception. You see there is an exception here. What is that exception? Line number 33, we got the exception. Line number 33. 33 means here. Line number 33. We got the exception here. What is that exception? Exception is unexpected tag name exception. What is unexpected tag name exception? It says that element should have been select, but it was due. What do you understand? So whenever you create a select class object and when you provide the element, and it will check whether that element is defined with select tag or not. So select class will work with the list box only when the list box is defined by using select tag. If the list box is defined with some other tag, then it will throw the exception. Not in the page for that element. Why do we consider entire page when we are working with particular? So for that particular element, then they have used different tag, not the select tag. So the limitation of select class is it will work with the list box only when the list box is defined by using select tag. And so there is a, there are other limitations as well. Other limitations are, it's a case sensitive. Whatever the value that you wanted to select, the visible text and all, then it will, it is case sensitive. So you have to give it in the same case. Also, sometimes, when you see if the value is too lengthy, the list, each option text is too lengthy. If you want to select by the partial value, then it may not support. You have to provide the full text to select the value. If you want to select by using partial text and all, then select class will not help you. So there are certain limitations with select class. So that's why we may not prefer select class always. Then, so how do you select the values from the list box without using select tag? So how do you select the values from the list box without using select tag? We'll see that again, okay, so in other class.